two different use cases, two different customers. They asked me last week, can you build this in the Microsoft stack? And I was like, yeah, let's have a go. So what we built was a declarative agent. So an agent that was able to retrieve information and then give that back to an end user from an IT perspective. So they could say, well, how do I fix my own printer? How do I change my password? And the agent's able to retrieve that information and give that answer to the end user. But what happens if they want to escalate that issue to a human being? Well, what we've done here is we created a queuing system that IT can monitor, and then they can accept those messages that are coming from an agent to have a one-to-one conversation with that individual. So human-to-human interaction, remember that? So I was going to build this in a slightly different way, but this is the way that worked for me anyway. So let's go back into these agents. And the first use case is this IT support. So I have built this as a custom engine agent in Copilot Studio. I don't have any knowledge or things like that. That's not important for this demo. But what I wanted to show you here is if we ask the agent something like, I need a human, we can use topics then to drive additional questions of the end user. So for example, describe your issue in detail. So it could be printer is stuck, or printer is not working. What's the severity? Obviously it's going to be high. We'll choose medium in this case. And then we've got the agent saying, yeah, thanks very much. I've collected that information. And then in a second, it's going to give me a support ticket and also start that queuing system that I just shown you. So here's my ticket number. This is all driven through a topic, like I said, so I can show you that very, very quickly. Create a new topic called Escalate to Human. And this basically goes through, asks those individual questions and then stores those as variables, but then also being able to pass that through to a flow, which is this IT support escalation. So we'll go into this in a little bit. But what that's doing is that flow is then creating these dynamic adaptive cards. So what the customer wanted is they didn't want a card each time that a new ticket was logged. They wanted a card that was updating all the time, which you can do. It's been around for quite a while now. So here I've got the last number of items that have not been accepted yet by an IT support technician. And what I can do is when I click on accept here, it's going to automatically open up a new page for me. And in the background, it's running another flow that's listening for that accept. And then in a second, I should get a message saying, yep, everything has been sent for me. And we'll start to see these workflows then coming in saying that I have accepted the request. And then a chat will be started between me as the support agent and the end user who will log that call. So again, all of this is driven via Teams. So that flow will automatically create a connection, a chat between me and the person, and then we can have that conversation, do screen sharing and things like that. So that was the important bit for them, is to be able to have that queuing system just in a dynamic adaptive card, of which I've created here. In the background, it's storing all of the different requests in Dataverse, and then it's updating that as and when it's accepted or when it's deleted, or even logged within our ITSM solution. So jumping into the initial flow, I just want to quickly show you the designer about how it calls and updates that tracker and the dynamic adaptive card as well. So when an agent calls, we're actually passing through all those different variables. We're updating the rows and a get card tracker. That's to monitor for any cards that haven't been built yet. And then we go through some two different conditions. So the initial part is actually creating that card if it doesn't exist. But if that card does exist, we don't want to create a new one. So this is where false comes in. So we get all of the waiting items, so we can update that card. And then we've got this update adaptive card, of which then we're passing through the information to that card through some JSON, updating the rows then to ensure that everything is up to date with the tracker. And then we're responding back to the end user then with the ticket number, and say that an agent will assist you shortly. So that's where the interaction stops there within the agent. And then we're using Teams then as like a secondary outreach then to that end user, because it might not be straight away. It might be in a couple of hours. It might be the next day, for example, as and when that support agent is available. Then I have a second flow over in Power Automate then that is listening out for the accept button. So the end user, the support engineer actually pressing accept. So again, we're listening for that JSON, And then I've got some parse commands here in order to strip out the HTML that's actually being sent back as part of this flow. Obviously, we're updating the rows again in Dataverse to ensure that now it's not an outstanding issue. It's been accepted by an engineer. We're getting some profiles. So the engineer's profile about who accepted that. So being quite intelligent about who it's going to align with who when it creates the chat then with those individuals. So just for this demo, I've got some static entries in here because when I've been demoing with this, obviously I'm joining myself with myself. So I've got some interesting errors. But here we've got like 2 different users, but these can be dynamic entries as well. And then we're posting additional cards as well to the individual saying, oh, your case has been accepted. Here was the issue. Just get a little bit of a reminder back to the end user to say, oh yeah, this was your ticket number. This was the issue that you had. And also a reminder for the engineer as well. So nice and simple there. So if I jump back into the chat, then we've got the cards then that appear, and then the 2 humans can have a conversation about that support request. So that's one way to escalate to a human and have a human in the loop to interact with other people if these agents don't know the answer or, just need that human help. Okay, next, let's jump over to something else that I was asked about. Let's just jump back to my agents. And that was around a way of using these agents to apply different permissions. Now, there's a right and wrong way to do this. This was a proof of concept. But it'd be great to have your feedback and ideas as well. And they wanted an access request agent. So somewhere where an end user could go and request access to a set of permissions, for example, or systems or access to data, but then have that in an automated way that would call out to Entra and then being able to go through an approval process of whether that person was allowed or not to access that system. So again, I've created this more basic agent here where they can fill in requests. I do have some topics in here as well. So the way that I built this was through the conversational start. And then I've built some adaptive cards that makes it look nice, really. I've put some presets in here as well, because there might be asks that happen just all the time, or maybe it's permissions that time out and needs to be requested again. So why not make life a little bit easier just by a tick box asking for that request? Equally, we can start a new request here as well. Again, this is topic driven. So you could put in natural language here exactly what access you wanted, and the agent would figure out what that is. Again, just for this demo, I just put some presets in here. So it might be access to HR. We're going to provide a business justification of why I need access due to role changes. And then it's also going to ask us for our email address. Again, this is just part of the demo. We can automatically pick up the person's email address if we need to, but we're just going to put that in. And then perfect, I'm submitting the request for you now. So a couple of things are happening in the background is I've got Slack over here. So Copilot Studio has a set of tools that can call out to Slack. And then we can push information into these channels, but also we can have adaptive cards within Slack as well. So what I have noticed on the side here, let me just move out of the way. Are you okay with submitting this request? Yep. And then bring Slack back across and we should see this live. So you can see in the background that the agent is running a process. So that's going through some knowledge sources that's trying to figure out what the access IDs are required for HR. And then in Slack, you can see the request that is pending. And just because this demo is actually sending me the approval as well within the same channel here. So I can approve or deny via these buttons here. And it's actually sending sending that request across to Power Automate in order to listen out for that request. And then it goes through the approval process there. So if we go back to the agent for a second, a better way is using the brand new multi-stage approval process that is part of agent flows. And that sends an email that looks exactly like this. And it gives you all of the relevant information that was sent into that agent. But now I can approve, or reject those requests. So I can hit submit here and it goes back into that flow and then sends the request back. Now, because I'm doing this live as well, obviously over time this would time out, But if I do this live, I should get an acceptance back automatically within the chat saying that the request has been approved. You can also hear some other emails as well that are triggering. So this is the actual one because I paused the video just to show you something else. And we accept that request, and then we can see processing, and then eventually it should say, here we go, your request has been successfully approved. Excellent. So imagine this probably wouldn't get approved live as the end user is requesting it, but we can also have an AI that's monitoring for those requests and then deciding whether that request should be approved or not, or whether we need a human in the loop or multi-stage approval process behind the scenes there. So just to show you the magic that's happening, let's go across to tools. This is where you can see I've got some tools around posting messages directly into Slack. And if you set up these tools or knowledge before, you know you need to give it a name, not very descriptive in this example, but also a description about how this agent is going to utilize that tool. Obviously, we've got our interactions, our connection into Slack. And then we've also got some dynamically filled information or custom values that you can put statically in here as well. And that's how the tools work. For the approval process, if I jump into this tool here, you can see that I've got a very detailed description about how the agent should be using this flow. And if I jump into the flow, I'll show you how this is working. And you can see that I've got a couple of requests that are still running in the background here. So I've not accepted or denied those yet. I should go away and do that. And this is a very, very basic flow to show you the concepts of this. Now, I wouldn't necessarily have like a Slack within this flow, but I might have this run multi-stage approval process, which is in preview today. So like I said, you can email out to humans to say, well, do you accept or deny this request? And you can go through that multi-stage approval, or you can have an AI that has very detailed instructions about what it should look out for, whether things are compliant or not. You can provide policies to that. And then if it's denied it, it could pass it through to human. Equally, if it thinks it should pass, it might automatically give that person access as well. So you might not want to give like permissions and access to data with AI, but you could have that initial check to ensure the person does have a valid request. Otherwise, just deny the request. You don't need any human in the loop, or approve, but then pass to the human in order to achieve that. So here's a bit of what that flow looks like. And then once we're responding, once we've added that user to the group, then we're passing that information back to the agent. And that's where you saw that acceptance message response coming back from the agent itself. So these multi-stage approvals, this is a like super basic one where I'm passing through the variables and the justification about like why that person or that human should be in the loop in approving that process. But equally, we could add a new node here. And you've noticed you've got a new group, which is called human in the loop. And this is where you can pick up this multi-stage approval process, and then you can decide whether it's a manual request or whether it's going to be an AI related request. So you can click on create here. I did a manual stage just to show you that as an example, but we can also do AI stages in here as well. And there's lots of videos out there on this already, so I don't want to boil the ocean with how all of this works. But essentially, you're giving it a set of instructions about what it should look for, what it should approve or deny based on a set of instructions. And then we can also pass through certain variables within here as well and have a little bit more logic. I actually might do another video deep diving into this if you want to. So put that into the questions below this video. But essentially, it allows you to have that multi-stage process with AI and human in the loop for approvals. And just quickly, I'm just going to jump back to Slack as well, because that request has now been approved. We can also send those messages to Slack as well. And that's as simple as giving these agents specific tools to access that, or flows, if you want something a bit more static. And that is just essentially writing the set of steps or the workflow that you want those agents to work in. So if I continue without saving here, and then quickly jump back into that agent, which is access requests. This is where I can have and define those instructions that I just mentioned. So what is the flow of things that you want this agent to do? And then call in and out of those different tools, like calling out to Slack or updating Slack with the information. Hope you enjoyed the video today, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.